Terrorists. There are terrorists on the property. That's the line that snapped my world sideways one summer afternoon, and it came not from a police scanner, not from a breaking news alert, but from the lips of my neighborhood's HOA queen herself, Vivian Blackwater, screaming into her phone at the edge of my land. And what threat, what terrifying menace had she spotted? My daughter home on leave, dozing quietly in a hammock strung beneath the old oak where her mother used to read her fairy tales. You couldn't make this stuff up if you tried. I mean, who'd believe it? You ever have one of those days when you're just trying to fix a fence post and end up in the middle of a crime drama? That's exactly where I found myself, hammer in hand, sweat rolling down my back, and the kind of shriek cutting through the afternoon that makes your stomach drop. Your mind start racing and your eyes dart for something, anything that could double as a weapon. That was Viv for you. The peacock of the subdivision, dressed to the nines in hot pink yoga gear, barking accusations and flapping her arms like she was guiding a plane in for landing. Her iPhone always pointed like a weapon, just waiting for a reason to call in the cavalry. Viv's drama wasn't new mailboxes, fence paint, cars in the driveway she'd gone to war over less. But today, she was dialed up to 11. And the reason my daughter Riley, 3 days home after years deployed overseas, just trying to nap in peace, her backpack under her head boots, kicked off all the weight of the world, finally set down for a minute. That old tree tucked out of sight wasn't visible from the road, barely from our own window, but apparently from Viv's second-floor bathroom where she ran neighborhood surveillance like the NSA. Riley had changed out there. The awkward kid who'd helped me wrangle cattle or whine about Sunday dresses had come back with a quiet edge, a way of scanning exits before she sat down, hands that sometimes drifted to where a sidearm should be, eyes that flicked to every shadow and threat. I didn't know half of what she'd been through, and I probably didn't want to. But the way she sat so still in that hammock, watching the whole circus unfold, yeah, you could see she was sizing things up 3 steps ahead. Not a rookie, not scared. Viv, on the other hand, was fully committed to the role. Her voice echoed, unknown individual, suspicious behavior, possible terrorist threat, as if she was auditioning for a part in a low-budget spy flick. Sirens started up in the distance. You know that moment when you realize there's no talking your way out of a situation because the gears of bureaucracy are already grinding? That's where we were. The thing about accusing a decorated Marine of being a terrorist is you'd better be ready for the fallout. Viv wasn't. I hustled over just as Riley sat up slow and careful, her hands in plain sight, not a flicker of panic. The sirens grew louder, tires crunching gravel, and here comes Sheriff Brad Kowalski, built like a fridge mouth, set in that permanent I'm in charge scowl, plus 2 squad cars and tow lights spinning. Viv watched from her property line, arms crossed, the smug look of a woman who thought she'd just saved the world. But as Kowalski stomped over, Riley just stood there in jeans and a faded Marine Raiders t-shirt, every inch the off-duty professional. "Ma'am, I'll need to see some identification," Kowalski boomed, trying to sound official. You could see the script in his head show up. Intimidate arrest. Go home a hero. Except Riley calmly reached into her bag, held out a military ID and a badge, the kind that makes even grizzled sheriffs rethink their life choices. The Marine Raiders. Not exactly the Girl Scouts. You could practically hear the gears turning as Kowalski recognized the insignia hand moving off his belt. Viv was still in full attack mode, binder clutched tight, waving a stack of documents like she was the law incarnate. "This is HOA jurisdiction," she declared, "and your daughter is breaking at least a dozen codes." I almost laughed. "Viv, this land's never been part of your HOA. That fence line's older than your subdivision," I reminded her. But she was ready. She whipped out a glossy survey map, updated boundary assessment. She called it, claiming my ranch had been annexed into her domain, and by her math I owed $45,000 in fines and fees, or else. I felt my blood pressure spike. Riley just watched quiet and deadly, cataloging every word. She finally spoke up, direct to Kowalski. I'll need 48 hours to review the legal status of this property. Not a question. And for a split second, even the sheriff looked like he'd take orders from her before Viv. Next thing I know, Viv shows up 2 days later with half the HOA board, 2 legal guys, and Kowalski again. This time not bothering to hide. He was there for Viv, not the law. They spread out papers on my porch like they were seizing the family farm. But just as the vultures started circling, a beat-up Honda Civic rolls up and out steps. Tommy Nguyen, a kid who looked barely old enough to rent a car briefcase and hand suit, a little rumpled. Turns out Tommy's an attorney who's been digging into HOA fraud in the county. This map's a fake, he announced, pointing out mismatched dates, a suspended surveyor's license, and a suspiciously timed boundary update 3 days after I refused to sell to Viv's developer pals. And just like that, the whole show shifted. Tommy and Riley, now a tag team, turned my kitchen into a war room, documents everywhere, coffee pot working overtime. In 12 hours, they'd uncovered Viv's scam. 23 families all hit with the same fake paperwork, forced to sell or cough up crushing fines. Viv's ex-husband was the developer. Sheriff Kowalski's gambling debts explained his loyalty, and there were bank records and phone logs to tie it all together. But Viv wasn't done. She went scorched earth online, painting Riley as an unhinged, dangerous vet, me as some militia kook. Local news jumped on the security risk angle. Social media exploded. That's when we got a call from Colonel James Rodriguez, Riley's CO, saying federal agencies were now sniffing around, worried about Riley's security clearance and unit position, thanks to rumors Viv started. I'm coming out myself, he said. This is too important. So now our ranch is ringed by news vans, neighbors whispering, Facebook groups melting down. Viv's loving every second, convinced she'll destroy us before court can touch her. But Riley, she's got ice in her veins, documenting everything, playing digital judo. And when Colonel Rodriguez showed up, he didn't mince words, laid out Riley's service record, described how she'd just rescued 12 American hostages, and as the cameras rolled, announced she was up for the Medal of Honor. The story flipped overnight. Our so-called threat was now a hometown hero. But the wildest twist, old Mrs. Mallister, sweet as pie. 3 doors down, steps up with a folder packed full of evidence-forged documents, cash ledgers, and photos of Viv and the sheriff plotting their scheme. Turns out Dot had been quietly collecting receipts for years, just waiting for the right moment. She dropped the hammer and the media swarm turned on Viv like a pack of wolves. That's when the feds moved in. Judge Patricia Chin, an old friend from my Army days, leading the charge. By sunrise, the subdivision was crawling with FBI, state police, federal marshals, all armed with warrants. Viv in cuffs, Kowalski live-streaming a rambling confession to dodge a longer sentence, and boxes of fake surveys, bribe records, and audio files loaded into evidence vans. Viv's surveillance system, designed to spy on us, ended up recording every incriminating word. Poetic justice, right? 3 months later, the courtroom was standing room only. Riley in dress blues, Medal of Honor ribbon catching the light, Viv in her orange jumpsuit. The evidence was overwhelming. Tommy, now special prosecutor, walked the jury through years of fraud, racketeering, forced sales, over $3.7 million stolen, families destroyed. Viv's own words played over the speakers. Fear is the most effective tool. I saw the jurors' faces, their verdict written in their eyes. Restitution for every victim. Full property rights restored. Viv gets 20 years, Kowalski 3. And Tommy, turns out his own family lost their restaurant to one of Viv's scams years ago. This was personal. He'd become a lawyer to make sure nobody else suffered the same fate. Walking out of that courthouse past the empty lot where Viv's mansion once stood, Riley and I stood under the oak where this all began. I held my late wife's photo. "She's home, Sarah," I whispered. And this time justice came too. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, peaceful for the first time in years. So tell me, folks, where do you draw the line between protecting your land and standing up to the bullies who think they own it all. Was justice really served here? Or did we just get lucky? Hit that subscribe button. Drop your wildest HOA stories in the comments. And let's hear what justice looks like where you live.